big week ahead for Aston Villa. Villa fans, hope you're all doing okay. Here's the match preview for Ajax v Aston Villa in the Europa Conference League. Joined by Josh. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you? All good, all good. And,
Mate, buzzing for this. Buzzing for it. Like, knockout football just hits that bit differently, doesn't it? You know, we've sort of had the little taster of the group stage, and now we're getting into like nice territory. And I can't wait for it. So we'll have a quick little look who's in the building. Then we'll get into the main bulk of the episode. So we've got Frank here, Charlie S. We've got Super John McGinn. Have a good game on Thursday, mate.
Please.
Pricey. We got Pete. We got Kevin. We got Julie. Fan cam Julie. Hope you're doing okay. Bozzy's here. Johnny. So yeah, really looking forward to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to preview Ajax. And then we're going to go and do the predicted lineup where we want you guys at home to get interactive with this episode and just comment away. If you haven't already, make sure you're smashing a like, commenting and subscribe. If you want to comment on this stream, then you need to subscribe. And this episode is brought to you by SofaScore, the quickest, best football app going. We'll be using a lot of SofaScore on this episode. Some of the stats are coming from SofaScore as well. So make sure you are scanning the QR code on the screen. The description, in the description is the link to SofaScore. So download it, helps us out massively. And yeah, just your support is huge. And you can help us by downloading SofaScore, basically. So, Josh, I know you watched the game that Ajax were in the last round, and you weren't really too impressed with Ajax. So what are you expecting from Ajax in this game?
Well, first of all, how Ajax are actually in this round has blown my mind, because I've never seen a two-legged affair where Ajax have been second fiddle both times. They played Bodo Glimt, Norwegian outfit. Now, you've got to put a bit of respect on Bodo Glimt. They had a great run in the Europa League a couple of seasons ago, got to the knockout stages. They're a team, obviously, who have really risen from like the second and third tier of Norwegian football. It's a bit of a great story if you look at Bodo Glimt and how they've got to the top division and stay at the top. But I'm telling you now, Luke, especially that second leg, Ajax away from home, it was horrible, it was abysmal. And the referee for me spoilt the tie, because Ajax had a man sent off on around the 55th, 56th minute mark. They're already, by the way, 1-0 up at this stage. But the goal again came on the counter-attack. Now, went down to 10 men, and Bodo Glimt were battering. And a couple of minutes later, Bodo had a shot. It was going in. It's hit the lad's arm. It's real clear. Denying a goal scoring opportunity. Me and my dad were watching it. It should be a penalty all day long. Referee then would have to send him off. They go down to 9. Ajax would have capitulated. He goes to the screen, bottles it. And when you just think big club bias kicking in, we've seen it a lot in the Premier League recently with, Man United's and etc. And Ajax were a whimper of themselves. They were playing for penalties, and the goal that they scored after Bodo equalised, went to extra time. The goal that they scored was a cross-come shot. One of them where the ball's out wide left. He's going across it. He miscues it. It lobs the keeper, and you think, God's sakes. So Ajax, for me, I would expect them to be keeping possession against a team like Bodo Glimt. They didn't. I think we are going to see something very similar, Luke, against this Ajax side with us. I think we're going to have in the echelons of 60-70% possession against them, both home and away. I think we're going to be absolutely in control. And for me, what Bodo didn't do was finish their dinner. They didn't take their chances. And I think, honestly, I'm going to put this out. I think we could kill the tie in the first leg. I genuinely think if we go all guns blazing like I think we can, and the way and the tibbiness of Ajax, I think we can go all guns blazing. And look, a little stat that I found really interesting when searching Ajax, and you might touch on it as well, is Ajax have not beaten a top team this season in their own league. So they've not beaten Feyenoord. They've not beaten AZ Alkmaar. They haven't beat PSV Eindhoven and FC Twente. The 4 biggest teams, they haven't beat them. They've lost or drawn. They've only won 1 home European game, and that was against AEK Athens. They've lost or drawn the rest. So I just think we play our game, we win. And if we can blow them out of the park in the first tie, in the first leg, my gosh, then it helps our congestion with the Premier League as well. And I think that's got to be the game plan, which I know we're going to come on to the lineup. But surely we go to Ajax, we roll them up in we blow them out of the park, and I think we can do that, mate. I really do.
Josh, you sound like, so I've been on We Talk Ajax on their podcast, and they sound like you, and they're big Ajax fans. We've got the opposition preview that's coming out tomorrow, and they're not confident one bit. And I was the one that was kind of like, this is a big game. Surely this is their sort of saving grace in their season that they sort of, if they need to bring their A game basically, because they got beat against Brighton, and I think we're a better team than Brighton. But I hear what you're saying, but I do think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a little bit different. We've seen it this season, haven't we? That Chelsea, that they bring their level against Villa, don't they? And it tends to happen against Villa. So I think it's going to be a close one. Morning, Justin. How are you? You all right?
All right. Yeah. Sorry.
Nice of you to join us. You okay?
Yeah. If only we didn't have a day job, it'd be great.
So, Justin, everybody that I've spoke to about this game is saying that Villa are going to win. Now, I know I'm going to ask you the same question, and I know you're going to say the same thing. So, how are you feeling about this Ajax game?
I'm not, actually. I'm not. I think we've got to be very careful. I think that they're a European powerhouse. They're a big name. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because once you get on the pitch, it's irrelevant what the name of the team is. But I think they will see this as a huge game for them in their season, and to maybe even re-establish themselves after a really poor start to the season. They're now sort of in and around the top 5 again. So they want to keep their name high up in everybody's lips on top European sides, and this is a fantastic opportunity to take a big scalp, which is what we are now. We're a big scalp. We're a big name. We're the favourites to win the competition. So I think we've got to tread very, very carefully. We're in now not straight knockout, albeit two-legged, and it's a different kettle of fish to what we've been in. We muddled our way through the group stages. Probably I expected us to comfortably get through the group, and we did, but it wasn't comfortable. There was a few scary moments. Well, maybe that was just teething problems in going into Europe for a new squad of players. Yes, a lot of them have European experience, and the manager, there's no better manager really than European football for a European competition than Unai Emery. But I think we've just got to be careful. We're more than capable of taking them to the cleaners if we were on it for 90 minutes. And Ajax are very hit and miss this season. And if we hit them on a miss night, then we could put the tie to bed. But the clever way to attack these two-leg games, especially when you've got the second leg at home, is, and I don't think we'll sit back. We'll see us play exactly how we've played all season. We'll just dominate possession, and we'll build from the back, and we'll try and score goals. And if we can get 2 or 3, absolutely fantastic. But for as long as I can think and remember following football, for me, two-legged ties is you don't lose away and you bring them back and you beat them at home. Mm-hmm. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a really difficult game. Like I say, their stadium's massive. They're not actually doing that bad in the league at the minute. For their standards, they are doing quite bad. They're knocking around 5th or 6th, something like that. So by their standards, this is a bad season. But in the grand scheme of things, they were near the relegation zone at the start of the season. Sacked their manager. They've got an interim manager now. Villa up against them, I think they're going to bring their A game, and I think it's going to be a real tight first leg. I think, like Justin said, if we can not get beat, come away from it and beat them at Villa Park, I think that's what's going to happen, because what you don't want to do is go out of the tie in the first leg, So we've got to be careful. We've got to respect the opposition. And, be mindful of the threat that they have, because they have got some good players. They've tweaked their system slightly. They had a good result in this new system that they played on the weekend. So I think we've just got to be very, very careful, bring our A game, and just hope if there are a little bit of rotation, everybody comes in and steps up then. So, Josh, as a whole in the Europa Conference League, Justin mentioned it that, we found it a bit difficult. And I said, I don't know when I said it, but I have said it, that it's felt like we've been playing knockout football in this competition for the whole thing, because we lost the first game. We couldn't lose a game again, otherwise we wouldn't have finished top of the group. Then we'd have had to play this playoff game that sort of, that's teams that finished second. So we have sort of been looking at this tournament now as sort of knockout football anyway. So as a whole, do you think we will go all the way? Do you think we've sounds weird saying, do you think we've got enough because of what we've got to contend with the Premier League? But do you feel like we can go all the way in this?
So before I give you like a straight up yes or no, I think the biggest thing, that I've shut up, Justin. The biggest thing that I've learned from probably watching Villa is that in the Premier League in the last couple of months, we have actually been able to practice a pragmatic approach about playing against teams who sit in a low block or defensive unit against us. And I think personally that caught us off guard against the likes of LEAUE Warsaw on that first tie. Not only the whole grand European stage of these ultras and all these fans, but I actually think we've been practicing a lot more about how to break these teams down. Where at the start of the tournament, where it was a bit like, oh, this Conference League's a bit harder than we all thought, the sort of vibe was going out. I actually think it was just that we're not used to breaking teams down. And I think we've been able to do that in the Premier League, been able to transfer it now. And you'd look at a prime example always for me is PSG. PSG flop in Europe because they don't have enough practice in their own domestic league to be able to compete in that sense. I think Villa have had that, a real good lesson, especially in a way. And I'm even going to put this as a blessing. I think we're learning from those Newcastle and Man United defeats, even more so as well, that will guide us in this. So look, I look at Ajax and I think, on paper, people go, if you beat them, you've got a great chance to final one of the hardest teams left in it. I just have to go off, and it's hard because, again, you mentioned Chelsea to me about, they came to Villa Park, bought their A game. But I can only go off Ajax. Like, they haven't beaten a team above them. They've only won once at home in the competition against the weakest team in that group, AEK Athens. I can only go off that. Yes, they should be bringing their A game against those teams, and they're not. They're not, even in their own domestic league. So my friend booked a flight. I've messaged you this, Luke, before. I've been toying it for months, and I don't want to be the... My mate booked his flight for Athens in September, and the hotel, he booked it because it was cheap as chips, and he's been egging me on. And every month I go to do it, and I'm like, I'm not going to curse us, because I swear to God, if I do it, we'll end up knocking out. So I'm going off that. I think we are. I genuinely have looked at this all season long and said, this is the tournament Unai Emery wins and brings us silverware. He's won a trophy every other season. He didn't win one last season. It's happening, and I've had that feeling ever since we've drawn in this competition, and I believe in us. I really do.
Love it. Right, so let's get stuck in then to the stats and have a look at how they play, etc. And then we'll get into the predicted lineup for you. So all of our data today is coming from my good friend AVFC Scout. He's absolutely fantastic. His graphics are sensational. The work that he puts into these is very, very good and very detailed. So go and check AVFC Scout on X. Used to be called Twitter. I still call it Twitter, but yeah. So go check him out. Real good stuff. And, there's a breakdown of players. He started to have a look at sort of players that would suit Aston Villa in a transfer window as well. So it's all really, really top quality stuff then. So let's have a look at the opposition analysis then. So they're playing with a 5 at the back, and they've just recently moved to this 5 at the back. Their football isn't as attacking as what the Ajax ways, the Ajax ways schooled on passing football. It's wonderful football to watch that they've been playing, for years and years. And it's not that type of football at the minute. It's different. They're struggling. Their manager at the weekend said, we've played this formation, but, we can get to playing really good football. So I think even he knows that, the fans are wanting a better brand of football. So it's a 5 at the back, a 3-4-3. Ajax have recently shifted to a 5 at the back formation due to recent form and key player injuries. Width is provided high and wide with wing backs. Wingers adopt an inside role, forming a box midfield. While not at the standards of past Ajax teams, they remain a possession-orientated side, building play from the back. The key player is Kaplan, a really good central defender, really young. Hato is a good central defender as well, really good on the ball. He's potentially jumping the gun based on one game. However, the young centre-back really stood out to me in the Ajax recent match against Utrecht. Kaplan completely controlled the game, orchestrating play from the back with impressive passing range, comfortable stepping into midfield. Kaplan saw significant possession and was Ajax's key player in build-up. So, as you can see from the graphic on the right-hand side now, this shows touches per game. So you'll get a real good insight in build-up. Where does their play start from? Who gets on the ball the most? So, as you can see, Hato and Kaplan are really sort of orchestrating play from the back in a 3 at the back. You've got Henderson, who's picking up the ball in central midfield. He's averaging 92.6 touches per game. And then the further you go, the less touches they get. But there's Berghuis has got a big threat on that right-hand side as well. And Brobbey is a very, very good striker indeed. So here we go then. Brobbey's having a really good season. In the Eredivisie this season, he started 23 games. He scored 15 goals and he's got 7 assists. He's 22 years of age. He's impressive athleticism and physicality, able to hold up the ball and link up play well with his back to goal, possesses the pace to exploit space in behind, albeit he's prone to being caught offside. So if Villa employ the high line, hopefully we can get him offside a few times. Shows good instincts and determination in the box, capable of finishing with either foot. So big, big threat, this player. Interestingly, at the weekend, he only averaged, I think he averaged around 30 touches. So he's not actually touching the ball that much, but, you know, he's doing a bit of damage because he's scored 15 goals. He's got 3 goals in Europe. If we have a little look at some more of his numbers, so he's averaging 3.12 shots per 90. Shot creating actions is at 3.49. Progressive passes are only at 1.05. Touches to 29.54. So that's a little bit about Brobbey. Berghuis, their winger on that right-hand side that's coming in to make that box midfield. 32 years of age. When I was on the Ajax podcast, they were saying that his legs have gone. And I think one of the big things to note in this game is how are they going to deal with the Premier League pace and our pace, which I think is something that I think if I was an Ajax fan, I'd be very worried about, because we know that we can play slow and intricate, but we can also play fast and direct as well. And can they live with us? So he's a veteran winger who spent most of his career in the Eredivisie. He's Ajax's main creator. They will look to get him on the ball. Progressive passer, lots of crosses and through balls. Likes to cut in from the right flank onto his stronger left foot and gets a lot of whip on the ball. Eredivisie, 4 goals, 8 assists. Europe, 3 goals and 2 assists. And his stats, so he's got 8.30 progressive passes, 73.78 touches per 90, pass accuracy of 74%. So, you know, big threat for Ajax. Justin, does that worry you, or are you feeling okay? What are your thoughts on how you think we're going to look coming up against Ajax?
No, it doesn't concern me at all. We've played better sides than Ajax this season and done very, very well, but it just feeds back into what I said at the start. We've just got to make sure we're very professional. We're very organised, which we will be. We'll have the game plan ready to go. And we don't sort of wilt under the pressure, as we saw second half against Luton. You know, every team's capable of throwing in a bit of a wobbler, and you've got to make sure that you don't do it in big games like this. It's all very well looking and saying we're the favourites, which we are, and we should win it, which I think we should. But you have to take care of business game in, game out. You know, 2 legs in this game with a really difficult game, you know, in the middle of these 2 games against Ajax. So we've got to be careful. We've got players coming back, so that's good. But we've just got to make sure we're focused and we do our job. And if we do our job as well as we know we can, then the Ajax team don't particularly worry me. That's not to say they don't carry a threat and they haven't got good players. I grew up with some of the greatest Ajax teams, in the history, watching, and they are notoriously great at bringing people through you've never heard of, and then within 3 years, they're the best players in Europe. Invariably by then, they've left Ajax, but, an average age of about 23, I think this team is. So they're a young squad, but don't be under any illusions that they come through that academy. It's one of the greatest, probably, in world football over the last probably 50 years. So they're all very, very good footballers. So as long as we are focused, as long as we are on it from the first minute and we can control the game and they don't have an absolute blind out, then I think, I would like to think we can nick this game and win it.
Good stuff. Right. Chat. Let's get into the predicted lineup. So when we come to each player, I want you guys to hammer the chat with who you would put in each position. We haven't spoke about this team, so it could go horribly all over the show, but hopefully not. But yeah, if you are watching and enjoying it, make sure you are smashing a like and subscribe to the channel. So kick it off then with goalkeeper. Is this a question or is it not? I don't know. But
no.
I'll kick it off. So Martinez is going in goal. So we'll go left back now. Right. So let's go left back. Josh. Left back. Who are you going with?
Sorry, why are we still on? Oh God. Okay. I think for the European away game, he may look at Luca Dean as an option because I think Moreno will start on Sunday. But I'm saying this really hesitantly because I'm not sure on that one. So I'll lock in Luca Dean because he offers a little bit more defensive structure than Moreno is my thought. But that's hard. That is hard, isn't it?
Well, I think there's a lot of people agreeing with you.
Okay. All right.
And I'd say I agree with you as well.
Right.
I think, he's not been starting, has he? And, when you talk about rotation and we talk about changing players, you get a lot of, we've got to play our best team and then we can bring on the subs or, and take the players off. Justin can't see. But, yeah, so I think we've got a squad where any rotation, the team is still pretty strong. The point that I would make about rotation as well is we've got 4 games in 2 weeks. So we are not going to play the same team 4 games in a row, surely. We're not playing the same team 4 games in a row. So there's got to, something's got to give here. Right, Justin, would you go with Luca Dean as well?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I think coming off obviously the winner at the end, Saturday, gives him great momentum going into this one.
Okay, right, cool. Right, so we'll go left centre-back now then. And we'll go, Justin, you can kick left centre-back off then. And chat, left centre-back now.
Pau Torres.
Wow.
Straight back in.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I don't know.
Because you see, for that to make sense, you have to hear more than 3 at the back, you see.
Okay.
This is why that doesn't make sense on its own.
Okay. All right.
Because you're now thinking he's leaving Conser or Longley out, which I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. Right. All right. That's fine. Right. We'll put Pau in. I think the chat are going. I think the chat are going Longley. So chat's going Pau, Longley, Pau, Longley, 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 Pau. Right. Who's next up then? Who's next to Pau Torres then, Josh?
Well, I think I know it just well. I was trying to think what I would do. I think I can work out Justin's little plan.
Yeah,
with a little smile.
I think I can as well.
Yeah, I think I know where he wants Ezri to go now. But I personally think he won't drop Matty Cash. I think he might do the Esri tactic for Spurs. So I'm going to go with Konsa's right centre half. But I know what Justin's cooking up, and I think actually, Justin, that might be the Spurs. That might be the Spurs game. He drops that little, little stake for us. But yeah, I like it.
So I'm gonna jump in a second, and I'm gonna look ahead to Spurs, right? So my defense against Spurs. So this is what I'm thinking against Spurs. Then, so against Spurs, I'm going with this against Spurs. Let me get Longley. So I'm going this against Spurs. So let me get Moreno. Moreno's in there. So I'm going that against Spurs because we've seen in the big games that Konsa goes to right back in the big games, and we've got these 3 centre halves and Moreno. So in my head, I'm playing Cash on Thursday. What are our thoughts on that?
I'll give you my reasoning. They've switched to a 5-4-1. So for me, I think we get better value out of playing Dean, Pau, Longley, Konsa, because I think that allows basically to slip into 3 centre halves, doesn't it, and be a bit more attacking. Because if they are one up top, I think that allows us to be a bit more expansive out from the back. And with Pau back, we all know what he brings to us. That sort of playmaker stepping into midfield role. And I think Luca Dean's probably a better defender than Moreno. So it also gives you that sort of comfortableness if we do sit in with a back 4, that we've got, good defenders across the full back line. And I think we'll just want to be very solid against them. And I think a European type game, maybe tightly different to Premier League style and pace, would suit the sort of false right back.
Mm-hmm. So are you two going with that? Is that what you think on Thursday?
No, I think Konsa right back and Longley centre half next to Pau.
So what you think for Spurs, Luke, is what Justin thinks, apart from
Thursday.
The switch left back for
Apart
Thursday.
from the left back, yeah.
Yeah, I think interesting one is, so I'm thinking about Matty Cash here. So first and foremost, if Cash doesn't play on Sunday, I think that screams volumes again of his position going forward for the future under Emery. Because I think, Luke, I know you've tweeted about this a lot recently, about how you feel Matty Cash is improving week in, week out, right? Mm-hmm. And that you actually feel like he's showing that sort of maturity in that position, which I completely agree with, by the way. So I think it's really interesting. This is a big sort of confidence thing for Matt Cash as well. If he gets bombed out straight away for Konsa, and basically if we go with what Justin's saying, I think that's huge. I think that's in a way harsh on Matty Cash, but it could pay off in terms of what Justin's saying tactically. But I think he's saving that tactic for the Premier League. I do. So I would be going with what you have on the screen as my gut for Thursday as well.
I don't see it bombed out. I see it as that's just when everybody's fit. We do have that way of playing, and I think Cash knows that, and I think he's obviously recently, because of personnel problems and issues with players not being available, he's basically had a free run at that right back slot, and he's done really well. He's done nothing wrong, just like Moreno's done nothing wrong. So it's not. We said very, very early at the start of this season that we are a squad-based team now, and he will pick the team he feels almost irrelevant. And I do think he'll do this. I don't think even in any way he'll have even an eye on the game on Sunday, because you can't, because of the way our injuries have gone this season. You can't say, okay, we'll go with this back 4 against Ajax and we'll play this back 4 against Spurs, because you don't know who's going to be available for that Spurs game. I know it sounds daft, but you've got to pick the best team you think is going to beat Ajax. And I just think Konsa and Longley and Pau back fit. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll go with Josh, because Josh is the guest, so Josh picked this back 4. So
right, I'm off. See you later.
Well, you were late, so
yeah,
right.
Sorry.
So
sorry, Jeff.
Okay, Right, so midfield now, and we get, because Kamara's out, we get into a position where this double pivot is the same double pivot every week, right? Again, like I said earlier, in the chat, I want your double pivot, so let me know your double pivot. I'll put them all on the screen. Justin.
Yeah.
Louise McGinn. Is that what you're going with?
I think it has to be, but I love to throw a little left field suggestion to you. I wonder what impact the Ramsey injury will have on the team selection for Thursday, because he obviously plays in that left-hand side role, and he has done since he's been back. And he's got better and better and better. But now he's gone, that role now is opened up. I don't think he'll go attacking wise in there. I don't think he'd go for a Zaniolo or a Diaby. So who does that leave you with to fit in that role? Now, the only other option is it Tim time? Is it too big a game to throw Tim Irabunam in from the start? I don't know. I think my gut tells me it'll be Louise and McGinn, and then he'll just slot somebody else in that more advanced position. But there is an option, possibly, to throw Irabunam into that double pivot.
Yeah.
And release McGinn into a sort of marauding role, which he loves. Which I don't think they would be able to handle McGinn in that position. I think it comes back to what I said a few weeks ago. You sometimes have to play the player in the position you're going to get the most out of him. And whilst McGinn does a very, very good job in the double pivot, he still, for me, adds more value for the team when he's playing in a more advanced position, because he gets that freedom to run in behind and basically maraud all over the pitch, where he has to be a lot more curtailed when he plays in the six. He has to do his job and be disciplined, which he does very well.
Yeah. I'm thinking that there's got to be some form of rotation, like I said earlier about the 4 games that are coming up. He's only giving Tim a couple of minutes here and there, isn't he? So I'm gonna play it. I'll play it safe with this double pivot, and I'm gonna put McGinn in the double pivot. But I would be happy to see Tim in there, and maybe even McGinn rested, you know.
Well, no, I don't think that.
No,
I think what we saw on Saturday was quite interesting when we had that early injury to Ramsey. You know, a bench full of players that could have comfortably fitted in that role. Diaby could have come on, Zaniolo could have come on, but he went for Morgan Rogers. So that tells me that he's not adverse to throwing the younger kids in. I know he's a signing, but he's still a young kid, very inexperienced in the Premier League. And I think he did really well. So, you know, maybe he could keep Morgan Rogers in that position. You know, that's who he felt good. He looked at the bench when Ramsey got injured and he thought, what's my best option here? What do I feel fits that role best? And he went with Morgan Rogers. So he's been here a few weeks now. He's settled into the side. And I think maybe Morgan Rogers could get a start against Ajax in that position, because that was his thinking on Saturday. And if you follow that through to Ajax, it's, you know, if we're going for what we think is most likely to happen, then I think Morgan Rogers could get a start. And I think he did well.
I think I agree. I mean, you've done an episode, Josh, today about this Ramsey Rogers role on that left-hand side. So do you think Rogers could start this game?
Yeah, so I gave 5 options. Don't want to spoil the video because there's
no 5.
But there's 5 options. The 3 options obviously are straight for what, like Diaby, Zaniolo, Rogers. One of them just goes out onto the left, or whether you ask Bailey to go out there, which I wouldn't want to happen, by the way. I want Bailey to stay on that right-hand side locked in. He's kept that position himself. So whoever goes and deputises in that role needs to go out and play on the left. My 4th option, Justin, was what Luke's just said, or you've sort of said, is Big Tim comes in to the middle and John McGinn goes played wide left with Bailey on the right and Watkins. And then my absolute 5th curveball was essentially Moreno goes out there and you play Luca Dina Moreno. and something that he's never done before, something that I don't think he would do. But it's something, again, when you look at the qualities of what Moreno does and how he attacks, there'll be that balance on that side. But the one thing I'm going to put my neck out on, Luke, is I'm going to say this. Dougie Luiz and John McGinn start every game from Ajax, Spurs, Ajax, West Ham, isn't it? Is that who we play after that? I'm going to say that they don't. I'm going to actually say he does not rotate at all in there, because I think you need those two in the spine of the team. And I think with Kamara's injury, it's the big blow, and I just get the sense of Unai that he really is going to trust that 11 to go every week, go perform. And I think someone said in the chat about the championship, right, where you do play 2 games a week, you have to do the odd bit of rotation. But I just think your Conces, your McGinns, your Louises, your Watkins and Powells, I think they play every minute in this big run up, because we've got an international break coming up. So that's the only thing I could say in terms of that. Whether it's the right thing to do, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's one of them. My gut.
You could see maybe Rodgers and Timo Rabun splitting the 11th man role. But by that I mean the 11 that started on the weekend, the one that, although we've changed the back forward a little bit, the one that had to miss out now because he's Ramsey. So Rodgers comes in as a like for like. Let's say as an hour. And then you could, depending on how the games go, you could slip Tim in and give him a half an hour of experience in Europe, and then just throw McGinn further forward for the last half an hour. So I think that's a definite possibility.
Like it. Right, so we got 2 positions for 2 players. One player that I think I would probably say I'm 100% confident that Diaby starts this game. That I'm putting that out there now. Right, Diaby starting this game for me. He has to, I think. He has to start for me. He's not playing in the Premier League. I'm wrapping up Bailey, ready for the weekend, and I'm playing Diaby. Josh, go on then. You're not saying Diaby?
No, Bailey's locked that in from. I again really get you thinking. I think I'm going down the route of the same. I just want the same boys out Thursday, Sunday. I just want the strongest faces out. Now, does Diaby get in my strongest 11 right now? No, but if you have Bailey telling me he's fresh for 90 minutes on Sunday, ready to cook a Spurs side, then I'll give that, because Musa could step up and have a European night to remember. Do you know what I mean? You can, go. You've done your thing at Luton. Now go and do it in Ajax. But mate, I think I'll be really upset. I'll be honest. I think I'll be really upset if I don't see Bailey, because he excites me so much right now that. I just got to see my man out there. Yeah, I don't know, but I like the bravery. I like the shout.
Justin, where's your headspace at?
I'm with Josh. I think Watkins and Bailey. That's your double threat, isn't it? That's the players that are in form. And I'm afraid to say, Diaby still has to make do with a sort of off the bench role still. They're tricky decisions, because we have got some big games that, in the next week, 3 games potentially could chart the rest of the season, couldn't they? So I think he goes with players that are in form. Having said that, Bailey wasn't at his very best against Luton, and Diaby did come on and make that final goal. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if Diaby played in for the reasons you've said. But I'd probably stick with Bailey. Yeah.
Cool. Right. So we'll go with what, and then you go Tielemans then, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've come up with that. Okay, I think we've pretty much. Yeah, I mean,
we got there in the end.
I think. Yeah, we got there in the end. So I think that's a good lineup. I think it's a good team. I think it's got it. It's got enough to beat Ajax. You know what I mean? So so that's our lineup. We've gone through the stats of this game, how it's looking. We've got a super chat here that I will answer. So Mars has said, is Matty Cash going to be someone we see at Villa in 2 years with FFP going forward? Europe, I can see him being frozen out. And I think I agree. I think with the news that came out yesterday of Aston Villa losing a lot of money, you know, I will touch on it now, and we will, because we haven't really spoke about it. So I'll give my thoughts, and we'll go around and we'll get everybody's thoughts. I know a lot of you probably want to hear us talk about it. I'm not too fazed by it. I mean, I imagine the owners are fazed by it because it's a lot of money to have lost. But what I will say about it is that loss has come at a gain. And that gain has enabled Aston Villa to close that gap dramatically to the teams that are above us. So last season, we finished 7th. We closed that gap from where we were before. This season, we're sitting in 4th place. So we've took a hit, basically. Because if you look at Aston Villa as a whole, and we did that wonderful episode with Kieran Maguire, we all know that revenue, we are a million miles off the teams that we're competing with. Corporate revenue, commercial revenue, match day receipts, we are an absolute million miles off it. So the fact that we're not bringing in enough revenue on that front, but then on the other hand, we haven't been selling our best players. So because we haven't been selling our best players, we possibly could have done, and then we wouldn't be in this position where we've lost vast amount of money. What I'm trying to say is we've took that hit of closing that gap and being strong and just going with it, that I feel like we're in the position that we're in now. And I think it's unfortunate that we're in a position where in the summer, I do think somebody's going to go. And I do think maybe two players will be leaving. I'm not saying it's going to be a Douglas Luiz or it's going to be an Ollie Watkins. I think what we have got is we've got some great value within this squad of players that can, before you even have to think about touching certain players, we can get to selling other players. You know, you look at John Duran. I mean, look at all that going on in January. You know, you can get 25, 30 million for John Duran. So before you even think about a Douglas Luiz, you can go with those type of players. And we've already seen Nedeljkovic coming in. And I think it's like, it feels bad, doesn't it, when you talk about players that you can possibly sell, like Matty Cash. You know, I could say now that I think Matty Cash might leave in the summer, but you would get 25, possibly 30 million for Matty Cash. Somebody would pay that for Matty Cash, a newly promoted team, a mid-table team. And I think where we are, like this sort of sense of, the word I'm looking for is like, you know, when we've been on this journey and we're with us and we have a strong bond with them. I do think that those type of players possibly will be leaving Aston Villa in the summer. So thank you for your super chat. That's where I'm at. But, you know, like Unai said in a presser the other day, that if someone leaves, we'll sign someone else and we'll be fine and they'll be back. So with Unai and with our recruitment model, and because we haven't had a model before, now we've got this model that we're working with Monchi. We've seen it with Sousa coming in, who's gone on loan to Plymouth. We've seen it with Nedeljkovic coming in. We've seen it with Morgan Rogers coming in. This is the model that we're going down. And if you can have players that are coming in that are young, that can push the players that you've currently got, you sell some of those players that you've currently got, then you've got players coming through that take the position of those players that are leaving. Everything looks better. And that's just where I'm at. You know, I don't know whether some will agree, will disagree. You know, I think, and my final point would be, back in the learner days when we were selling players and not having any policy or recruitment policy. And it just felt like we were that team that were selling your best players, you pocket it, and you sign really bad players that are nowhere near the level of the players that are leaving. We're not in that position anymore. The players that we'll be signing will be methodical players that suit a system that Unai wants to play. So that's where I'm at. If somebody leaves, somebody will come in that Unai wants, that will be able to be moulded and succeed at Aston Villa. So that's where I'm at. Justin, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you've nailed it, really. I think we've not got to get too worried about it. You know, we saw the loss of Jack Grealish at the time as catastrophic because of what he meant to us and what he did for us. But without that sale, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I think whilst it's great to be emotionally attached to players, like I've done ever since I've started watching Villa, I think you have got to make sure that you realise that there's chances that these players will go, and the pathway we're on, we are much further ahead than I think anybody thought we would be at this point. And that's through the investment of the owners, but that's not sustainable. You know, we can see that with the figures that are coming out. You know, the wages as a percentage of turnover, which I tweeted today, you know, we're 89% of our turnover is taken up by our wages, and that is just not sustainable. And the only way that changes is by upping the turnover, which is, nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room, but the stadium. You know, the Spurs have invested heavily in a massive new stadium, and theirs is, you know, they spend more than us. That's on wages by 30 odd million. Yet that's only 40%, 7% of their turnover. That's only half of what they produce on wages, and they're spending more on wages than we are. And that's alarm bells. You've got to do it, and it's not going to happen overnight. It might not even happen, I said today, for a generation, because you're talking about seismic changes of the football club. You know, a potential new stadium, hopefully where it's currently stands now. But you know, knocking one stand down isn't enough now. That's like sticking a sticking plaster on a break in a dam. It's not going to do the job, and this is why I think personally they've backtracked on that, because they know that there's a bigger job needed to be done. So it could be a full stadium rebuild, because we have simply got to bring more money in. Nobody wants to talk about corporate, and everyone thinks that, you know, they're just fleecing the fans. And at times I think they have, and I think they've made some poor decisions, but it's the way it's got to go. You know, there's no point lying about these things. We have to bring more money in. If we don't, then this season will be a one-season wonder thing. And it's unfortunate, because the elite and the current, what you call the Sky Six, let's call them, the shutters came down after they went off in the distance and did all their job, and they now got this huge income. And then they can basically say to everyone else, well, you'll never catch us now, because these rules have come in. And you know, we've seen Newcastle have got to sell in the summer. We've probably got to sell in the summer. So the teams in the last 2 seasons that have been the closest to catching those teams and getting in the Champions League, the quicker you get there, you disappear off back and get down again, because you just can't keep spending the money, because your income doesn't allow you to do it. So there's some very difficult decisions in the future coming down the line for Villa. We've done unbelievably well to get where we've got, and none of us want to see that change, mainly because of the manager. I think he's done an unbelievable job. But we've got to be very wide-eyed and honest about where we are and where we need to be. And there's a difficult pathway through to hopefully getting where we want to be. And I think we can, but there's going to be some difficult roads ahead and decisions to be made. And not everybody's going to like them. But we want a sustainable, successful football club. And for that, in the modern age, I'm afraid you need a lot of money coming through them coffers, turnstiles, corporate, sponsorship deals. You know, getting in the Champions League every season. And these things don't happen without being very careful about how you go about it, because we've still got to circumnavigate FFP and P&L. So we've done great, but we want it to continue. So we've got to make sure we make the right decisions now.
Yeah, I think we will, and I think we've, I don't know, you know, with NSW, we've been on this journey of sort of championship to hopefully Champions League, you know, and each time we've hit this building block, and we're building and we're growing, and we're now starting to get to sort of the next phase. The next phase is sort of like making money, and that's like, you know, we all love football, don't we? We all absolutely love the game. We love what happens on the pitch, but unfortunately now that's not enough. What happens on that pitch isn't enough for Villa to succeed. It's got to be off the pitch as well. So, yeah, so I think we'll end that show here then. Hopefully you've all enjoyed it. There's a lot of you that have been watching as well. I can confirm that I will be representing Aston Villa fan base on the overlap on Thursday. So I will be on the overlap on Thursday, waxing lyrical about Aston Villa. So I'm buzzing to be back on there. And yeah, can't wait for it. So if you all are making sure you smash a like on this episode, subscribe to the channel, but also click this link now that I've put through here, and you can download SofaScore, and it just helps the channel out massively. Like, you know, we've been on here for 54 minutes. If you've enjoyed it and you've been with us and you haven't already, just to say thanks, like, download that app, and it's just helps us out. And yeah, so just want to say cheers for all your support recently. You know, you've all been smashing it, watching and viewing and subscribing and doing all that stuff. So yeah, just make sure you download the app, and it helps us out. So right, finally, score predictions then in the chat. Josh, Ajax away. What's your score prediction?
Ajax 0, Aston Villa 4.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That's a whopper. That's gonna be a whopper. Justin, what are you going? I know you normally go big, so what are you going with?
I've got a feeling it's going to be a draw. I don't know why, and I don't think I've ever predicted anything other than the Villa win on here. But I think it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go for a 2-2, which is highly unusual for me. And beat them in a park, in a barnstormer.
Well, are you okay today?
I'm gonna go. I'm going draw as well. I'm going 1-1. I think. Honestly, I think it's going to be a tight game. And I do think we go through in the second. I think we beat them at home. But yeah, I'm going with 1-1. So cheers everybody who has watched this episode. SofaScore, download it for me. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.